Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Manly Battleships YouTube channel. I'm Mr. Panda.
And I'm still sick. What do you want? I'm still sick. I can barely breathe, so this will be a very breathy performance.
And this is our video podcast, Last Week in Geek, the exciting show where we talk about what happened last week in Geek. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. While Rockstar huffs and puffs and tries to blow down the camera with her thumping on the table, we're going to give you what's important from last week, totally. But first and foremost, we're going to start with new media. We got a handful of trailers coming out this past week, including one for Stargirl coming out on Disney+. A lovely little tale about manic pixie dream girls in middle school.
I mean, it's a Jerry Spinelli book. What do you want?
Is he the one who writes the books with the really artfully created title fonts? Like, I don't know, The Fault in Our Stars et al.?
That's John Green.
Okay, well, I can't tell the difference between these authors anymore.
Spinelli is from, like, our childhood. John Green's, like, the Gen Z, Zoomer childhood.
And how about Nicholas Sparks? Where's he in this mess?
He's out somewhere over there in Romance
Okay, Boomer.
Land.
We also got a preview for the final half season of BoJack Horseman. How does it all end? Well, BoJack's going to be teaching some college courses or something. I don't know.
And then we have Judah with his hair down. Dude, I can't wait for that. I want to see Judah with his hair down.
All the important questions allegedly have to be wrapped up in this half season. So, you know, things like, where's everyone going to be? Is everyone going to have their arcs resolved? Who's going to end up with whom? Who's going to die?
Is Princess Carolyn going to end up with Judah?
Everybody dies. That's the ending. Everybody dies. Not a trailer, not a promo, but a sample?
Promo.
I would call it a sample at this point. They can call it whatever they want. They used to do 5-minute trailers for Dinosaur back in the day. Oh, that dates me a lot, doesn't it? Well, Picard on CBS All Access is getting a promo, sample, or whatever you want to call it. And that's been released now, so you can get one final look at what to expect.
Don't say final.
Final look at what to expect before they actually release it, even though it didn't really tell us a whole lot about what's happening in the show.
Dude, it might end up being like The Rise of Skywalker, where they dumped like 5 promos right before the fucking opening weekend. 5
promos that tell you nothing, and then right at the beginning there's the opening crawl that says, oh, okay, that's a lot of information to digest. Let's just retcon 2 movies.
Let's just retcon the whole series! Start over from fresh.
We're completely off topic, but you know, I really want that to become a new trope in the same field of, oh, it was all a dream. It's like, opening crawl, fix both past movies. Pay no attention to the Sith behind the curtain.
What if it was a Sith dream? Palpatine made Anakin believe he killed him. That explains everything!
But somehow, despite moving on from Star Trek, we are now technically on point with our banter, because Viz Media is releasing a new manga. It's about Luke Skywalker in his best boy anime context version. And it's going to be side stories, basically, filling in some of the gaps about his character. I don't have a whole lot of specific details about what they're going to be covering. Could be a couple stories about, you know, in between Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. You know, we didn't get a whole lot of specific information about that within the films. Maybe also some stuff post Return of the Jedi. Who knows? For anime fans, Fruit Basket Season 2, the new one, is coming out. It's announced. Congratulations. They posted a recap of Season 1 for those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. But honestly, at this point, if you hadn't already watched Season 1, why would you want to watch a recap? I don't understand.
Have you watched any anime? We have to have the recap. There's
the recap episode
everywhere. No,
you know
who's really bad at it?
You know,
My Hero Academia.
Oh my god, you're just gonna be on this train for forever. You know, even Love Hina had a recap episode.
Everybody has a recap episode.
What's the point of that? I mean,
because you need to know.
Even if you were watching it on a weekly basis, who needs that kind of refresher? I don't know. I mean, like, dude. Avatar: The Last Airbender had recaps down pat. Like 30 seconds or less, no matter what. This is what was important in the past.
No. We need a whole episode of what happened just in the last 3 episodes.
And in the worst case scenario, we'll just have a play within the text of the story that tells you what happened. Good news for me personally, Whisper of the Heart, one of those low-key Ghibli films, which was adapted from a manga, is getting a sequel, a live-action sequel. So I'm very excited about that. Although, it's kind of disappointing it won't be anime, but I mean, like, strained resources. And, of course, like with many live-action versions from Japan, it will undoubtedly be twice as long as it needs to be. Looking at you, Grave of the Fireflies live-action.
But they wanted to drown you in tears!
Yeah, they just had to draw out the drama for another hour. And capping off our new media section, Square Enix has announced that Final Fantasy VII HD is getting...
Remix! You forgot, it's a remake!
That's why I said HD.
No, what?
It's HD. It's just remake. HD. It's just HD.
Remake. No, it's called remake.
It's getting pushed back to April. And Square Enix is very sad about that and apologized in a statement, but they want to let you know that's because they want to give you the best thing possible. There's a lot of final polishing that they have to do, and they've made comments about this before, how it's a much more extensive game than people appreciate. It had a lot more content back when it was initially released than a lot of games in a similar vein. It's just such a huge game. And in order to get every element of that transferred over to a modern graphics set is a lot more time consuming than some of its contemporaries.
I mean, to be fair though, there's a lot of game companies talking about pushing back stuff to the point where 2020 has barely any releases in the first 3 months. So really there's not much games except if you're Assassin's Creed!
Man, I mean,
with honestly, your yearly remakes!
Yeah, honestly, like, if anything, this is a good sign, and we should be appreciative of the fact that they're willing to wait, you know, because so many companies, it's like, oh, we'll fix it in DLC. We'll fix it in DLC, we'll fix it in post, it's fine. Assassin's Creed, gotta release a game once a year, and it's half janked. I don't even play Assassin's Creed, and I hear people complain about that. So, I mean, it's good. I think it's good that they want to take the time to actually make sure it looks good and they don't have to patch it day of. Which brings us into the news section. The victims of the Kyoani disaster are getting workers' compensation. Thank you, Japanese government. The fallout from that tragedy has been enormous, and it's always good to see some kind of good news coming out about it, whether it's the relief that's been raised, or in this case, official Japanese government intervention that's actually going to compensate people for the harm and the suffering that they've had to go through. As with all updates related to the Kyoto animation disaster, we will continue to bring you those whenever they come up.
Meanwhile, Netflix has gotten the streaming rights for Studio Ghibli, but not in the US. Basically will stream worldwide, except for in the US.
And Canada. And Japan.
Hope you guys have those VPNs handy to be able to hack into other versions of Netflix to watch those Ghibli movies.
Of course, I'm not going to recommend any specific one because no one pays to be on this show. But I mean, like, I hear, like, NordVPN is cool or something.
Should have waited for a sponsorship. Now they'll never sponsor
NordVPN, sponsor the show! In the United States, if you want to watch Ghibli movies on streaming, you have to go to HBO Max, which no one actually wants because Game of Thrones is over.
Yeah, that. Due to the new acquiring of Fox and a bunch of their stuff, Disney's going to take that out of any future releases of those movies.
No more spotlights. Streak is convinced that the reason that so many people are angry about the new Star Wars trilogy is because the Fox logo is so iconically tied to home video releases of Star Wars that the moment they removed that, everyone was just like, cued to dislike it.
Classical conditioning would actually account for that.
I mean, like, but it really is, because it's just like, da-da-da-da, and then it just rolls over into the little LucasArts logo. And then it's just like, hey,
I just said that bit.
Incidentally, on the subject of Star Wars, yet again, they did in fact cross the $1 billion threshold before the close of the year, but for some reason it took this long to actually find an official source that confirmed that. Okay. So with The Rise of Skywalker, Disney has officially solidified its record as having the largest pool of billion-dollar movies in a year. I guess congratulations. Money, money, money. Stock portfolio looking pretty good, guys. Thanks.
I mean, that's just their quest to take over the world.
The quest for more money.
They are inevitable.
Baby Yoda has taken the internet by storm, and that's reflected in people's ability to just make their own homemade versions of him, whether it's plushies, figurines, whatever, and sell it on Etsy, you know, the infamous crafty, homespun art stuff store where you can just go and buy almost whatever you want. Custom stamps, custom t-shirts, what?
Stop! You have violated the law.
So says Walt Disney. Because Walt Disney, in not an unusual move, but different because it's not something you usually see happening on the Etsy site, they're establishing their IP protection. Because, of course, they own the rights to Baby Yoda and his appearance and any potential merchandising that comes out of The Mandalorian. And for Etsy, that means a lot of shops are facing scrutiny and a tightening of restrictions on their ability to sell Baby Yoda stuff.
Well, this is also coming off of the fact that, guess what? Soon you can go to Build-A-Bear and get a official Baby Yoda plush.
I wonder why Disney suddenly took an interest.
Merchandising! Merchandising!
So if you want a Baby Yoda, you're going to have to go to Build-A-Bear from now on. Circling around to the American cartoon scene, we have Hank Azaria officially withdrawing from the role of Apu in The Simpsons. Surprising few because The Simpsons is been garbage for quite some time at this point. This is a very complex issue, and we have opinions on it. And since Rockstar is Latino, she will be channeling her Speedy Gonzales rage to discuss it. Or Slowpoke Rodriguez, I'm not actually sure which it is.
Slowpoke Rodriguez, he pack a gun.
I was just going to mention that I can kind of understand the stance that says it's offensive. I don't know where you are going. Yeah, guys, maybe Apu's offensive and you just don't see it because you're not part of the culture. I have been fighting for a really long time. It's not the same, but kind of the same, for better representation of Hispanic types in movies and in, like, voice acting and all this other fun stuff. Because guys, like, people who are a minority don't really get to pick whatever character role they want. And often, voice actors and regular actors, yeah, they may be Hispanic, they may be white Hispanic, which makes them ethnically ambiguous enough to play at different roles, but sometimes they're still pigeonholed into specific types that nobody really wants to play anymore. And this gets into a really convoluted conversation about stereotyping and how making stereotypes of foreign people makes the racist part of America more susceptible to make them the other. There's debates when it comes specifically to the Hispanic culture that if you see, I think it's more than 90% of, like, Hispanics portrayed on TV shows tend to be the violent gang type. Therefore, a lot of the American public takes that in and goes, well, they're all violent criminals and should be deported. I wonder where you hear that very often. With Apu, I really can't put in a personal complaint because it doesn't really affect me. But because of that, I'm just saying you guys should be more sensitive and listen to actual reasons why the Indian population might take offense to Apu. It may not be just because of his accent. It may be for other reasons. I don't know. I'm not Indian. But the other problem here is a white voice actor portraying a stereotype. That happens a lot in Hispanic culture too, where it's a white person playing fucking Pablo Escobar! You know who I'm talking about! I'm just saying I'm not opposed to white actors playing ethnic roles, only if the people who are actually ethnic get more chances to play things that are not stereotyped and pigeonholed. So, once we can achieve some sort of balance, it's fine. But right now we don't have that balance. And I don't mean the balance, don't tip it the other way either. It's not, oh, only gay actors should play gay people on TV. I think that's tipping the scales too far. There's a balance on both sides, and that's all I'm saying. We need to achieve a balance before we can really start complaining, I think. What do you think, Panda?
I mean, you kind of railroaded it there, Hispanico.
There are serious problems.
I can't have an opinion. I'm white. It's fine.
There are serious problems in the voice acting community as well as in the actor community when it comes to ethnic types. And
this came up before with our discussions about Steven Universe. Because while the characters aren't ethnic, They totally are ethnic kind of issue, right? And that discussion was raised before in terms of, like, none of the voice actors... Well, I should say, all of the voice actors are, quote, racially appropriate to the character that they're portraying in Steven Universe. Even though, for example, like we said, they're aliens, but whatever.
You'll have people who will never be satisfied about something for the plain fact of stirring outrage. For instance, when a non-binary person played the part of Emerald in Steven Universe, the fandom got all pissy about it, despite the fact that technically gems are non-binary, and they've mentioned that multiple times.
Yeah,
it's convenient for them.
Yeah, whenever it's convenient.
You have the problem where I can totally see the other side saying, well, you're just being angry for something to be angry about, and this character has a history. Huh? Well, stereotypes do have histories. Long histories. The stereotypes I'm talking about with Latino characters, yeah, they still translate from the fucking 20s. That doesn't mean we should continue them, just because they're history. It also doesn't mean that stereotypes are always wrong, either. It's just balance. Balance, and we don't have that in either the voice acting, or the fandom, or the acting community. Don't have it anywhere yet. I
mean, I think like Hank Azaria, is the way he expressed it on, I think it was The Tonight Show was on it. I mean, like, I felt that was a fair statement. It's like, the character isn't intended to offend anyone. Historically, the character itself was about representing the immigrant population in a place like where The Simpsons is situated. Yeah, fun fact, I don't remember what the name of the town. Springfield, right?
Springfield.
Yeah. But just like he said, it's like, if it's become that much of a problem, you know, he was willing to either, like, step aside or help transition it into something else. I don't think that the character, at least in my experience, has ever done anything explicitly harmful as a caricature, but at the same time, there is that argument that if there is an opportunity for someone who has a more personal attachment to a role like that, like someone who is from an Indian or South Asian background, why wouldn't we want them to voice that character because they can bring something a little more genuine to it? Now, that being said, like, I don't know if I would classify Hank Azaria in the same category as someone like Mel Blanc, but there is that counterpoint of, you know, voice acting talents are a little bit different from classical actors. If they have a range, they have a range, and that's the end of it. I don't know. I'm very mixed on this entire issue.
There's that problem, but then you have two issues with the first things you brought up. One, I get that they were trying to bring in, and it came out of a place of trying to understand. But a lot of the times I feel like, and no offense, but white people don't understand the issues of... And if you're not willing to listen to the actor that's there, which happens a lot of the times, I've heard of a lot of horror stories, specifically from the Hispanic community, just because that's what I specialize in looking at. A lot of the times, the Hispanic actor will say something to the white director about, let me change the character a little bit, let me give him a little bit more depth, but they know, they want the stereotype, and they will cut the movie or whatever it is to fit what they want, despite the actor wanting something else to try to bring a little bit more life. So, it's true, maybe they could have brought somebody in there that would have had a little bit more genuine to the Apu character, but would the director listen to him? Because, again, a lot of things go into storytelling when it comes to acting. It's, will the audience want that? Will, the director want that? Will the producer want that? There's a lot of places where something like that could be made, and it has happened before when it comes to ethnic portrayal, which is why you still see a lot of stereotypical stuff unless you watch it from a Latino director, and even then.
Oh, yeah, Latinos, they never do stereotype. You were complaining about, what is it, that new Salma Hayek film, right?
Yes.
Do you think that there's a difference is there a meaningful difference within that broader discussion about casting, etc., between cartoons versus live action? Because we've had the live action discussion over and over, especially in connection to things like Scarlett Johansson and Ghost in the Shell. I think there's a couple other examples that I'm just not getting off the top of my head.
There's definitely, I feel like, a difference, but I think voice acting is becoming more like Hollywood than it really should be. Because there's been this big push for more Hollywood A-lister voice actors to come in and do animation voice acting instead of...
That's how you get that weird pigeon spy movie with Will Smith, which somehow has a good rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so I don't know how that happened, but, okay.
Whatever, dude. You want to do something after Shark Tale? The pigeon movie is obviously the next best thing you could do.
I had managed to forget about Shark Tale until this moment, and now I hate you. And you need to stop. My real question was about the distinction, much like the distinction between, how they're doing a lot more blind casting in live stage plays, because it doesn't matter. On a stage play, it literally does not matter who is doing the reading.
Yes.
In movies, there's the argument for, true alignment and all that nonsense. And then you have situations in voice acting where, you never really see the person behind it. And if they can give if they are what the director wants, doesn't matter. You have, white people playing ethnic characters in Avatar: The Last Airbender. You have a black man voicing characters like Kratos, who's like a Greek demigod. You have all sorts of different changes.
I think it's great that we have some sort of colorblindness when it comes to voice acting, but I think it could also go terribly wrong in totally different ways, like having a certain character be voiced by a white person that's meant to be Hispanic, and the portrayal is so far into caricature it almost sounds completely fake. Like Seth MacFarlane in that maid character Consuelo, who goes around going, no, you buy the lemon pledge.
I stay.
I mean, he literally only says one or two words, and the caricature is just way too far into being really negative, and I have feelings about the character. The fact is, she's still a really bad stereotype. That's when it can go too far, because it's not colorblind anymore. It's a white guy portraying a Hispanic woman as a maid who can't speak English at all. Really. And that brings negative connotations to the current political climate.
In my case, I've always been open to the idea that caricature is not an inherently offensive act. It's just something that is, with unfortunate frequency, something that is used in an offensive way. A lot of times that's tied to things like warfare. There's a long history of using caricature in association with war propaganda, and that's really a universal thing. I can't think of any major nation that hasn't employed it in some capacity, whether it was World War II, World War I, the rape of Belgium and all that good stuff. How we portrayed Japanese and Germans during World War II and Bugs Bunny cartoons. And I guess that we still kind of have that holdover, especially here in America, because of how divisive racial issues have been. Just have a bad history with it. And I don't know how to fix it, because sometimes I actually appreciate caricature. I think caricature is a way that we highlight and parody ourselves. And it's unfortunate that we can't find a way to make it work for everybody. And I mean, I'm not suggesting that we become so insensitive that we can't have dialogue about the importance of representing characters well. But I'm also worried that any kind of correction that we do will be an overcorrection, and we will just lose a lot of potential good, wholesome comedy in the mix. I don't know.
I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. I think the problem is I've become a little bit more sensitive to it as I gotten older, especially because I actually don't mind caricatures. I could give you a whole list of movies that I watch that I know is really bad portrayal of the Hispanic, stereotypes.
But you don't walk out of the movie and think that is everybody, and that's the difference, right?
I don't.
Well, I know. That's what I'm saying.
The problem for me is the people who can't distinguish that was a movie that just slightly poked fun at a culture that I don't really know about. And
like Mexican movies portraying all Puerto Rican men as gay.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually a thing. My God, you made me lose my train of thoughts.
America 101, check it out.
When people can't tell the difference between stereotype and truth, those are the people I'm scared of. I'm not really necessarily worried about the people who go, oh, that's just a stupid movie. I know that people aren't really like that. It's just a movie. It was made for fun. It's the people who can't tell it apart and then use it for political gain. And I guess that is the sad part about caricatures, because I myself enjoy them, but now I've become too sensitive to them because I've been stereotyped based off of the stuff that is very generic in a lot of movies when it comes to Latinos. And it's like, I want to tell them that's not the stereotype. It's like, but I see that on Modern Family all the time. Sofia Vergara!
It's fine, Rockstar. Half the time they don't realize you're Hispanic anyway.
That's my problem on stereotypes. I love them, but I also very much hate them. It's a very endearing love-hate relationship.
Rounding things out with some tech news, Microsoft has released its new Chromium, which is great because no one liked Edge. There are still people using Internet Explorer on older machines because of how dumb Edge was. So congratulations, maybe this one will finally work out for you. And finally, the newest branch of the military service, the Space Force, has unveiled its uniforms for the time being, at least, and people got upset about it for some reason, because I guess it's too earthy. It has earthy tones, and they're supposed to be the Space Force. And I'd just like to point out to you real quick, because I'm actually, like, if there's one thing coming out of the last administration that I universally am super excited about, it's probably the Space Force, because I'm dumb like that. If you're not familiar with military logistics, this is something that was kind of expected. A lot of the military uniforms in general across the services have kind of been streamlined into like one of two different patterns. So honestly, guys, that's what they got. I mean, what do you want?
Space pants!
Well, no, and here's the other thing, is until we're really in space and do space stuff, all SpaceX is doing is guarding freaking, like, the bases of our space shuttles and stuff. And guess what's around them? Trees!
You know, I wasn't even going to try to defend the use of earthy tones beyond military logistics, but apparently Rockstar has her own patented theory. Yes, it's because the bases are there, and they're surrounded by trees, and...
That actually comes from Shep from winning the war on pants, dude.
The trees also speak Vietnamese. So at the end of the day, just keep in mind, they'll probably change it once people are actually in space. But for now, I'm pretty sure, guys, you don't need to get bent out of shape about the newest branch of the military service and their uniforms.
Well, actually, I'm just trying to figure out, what kind of colors do you think are out in space anyways?
Space pants.
But, like, that's the thing, is if people are upset about the earthy tones, like...
We're from Earth! We want to represent Earth in our clothing!
We don't know what other planets look like yet, besides the moon. We don't know what kind of camo they're gonna need.
All black.
Yeah, all black.
No, that would probably be a bad idea.
Command? Yeah. We just lost 2 people. What happened? They were repairing the space station. They're gone. Not again!
I mean, really, you just need colors of any kind so that you can offset yourself from the background in case we need to find your body in space. That's all we got today, ladies and gentlemen. So if you are new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when the next video comes on. And either way, please give us a thumbs up if you are enjoying our content. Leave your comments on any of the stories that we've done in the section below the video. And then we'll see you next week.